Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Pod TV Network. I'm Nick Pallavito. I'm going to be your host for today's show. And today's show, we're going to be discussing a show that I went and did some industrial espionage on called The View. And I got some great information to talk to you about on The View. A couple things is the studios were not as what I thought they were going to be. They weren't as opulent as the studios they have at PBS in Raleigh, which are incredibly opulent. Number two, the talent that we have is actually pretty good on the Pod TV network, perhaps even better than the talent on The View. So talent-wise, I think we stack up really well. Distribution, we distribute more internationally, and we do not have the distribution of obviously CBS and ABC. I went to see two shows, one called The View, and the other was the Drew Barrymore show. So with that, we're going to be discussing the media on the Pod TV network. I'm going to bring in a person who produces quite a few shows for the network, and that is Sasha Starr. Do Swadanya. Sasha, I spent last week in New York doing corporate espionage on other studios and seeing what shows they have. And I went to see two of them. Now, by the way, just for part of the reason why, okay? Part of the reason why, if you go to New York City and you go see a Broadway show, we went to Carnegie Hall, we went to also see eHarmony at the Barrymore Theater, just happened to be their name. To go see live shows and events today are very expensive. You can easily spend $200 to $700 a ticket or $1,000 a ticket. So when my wife and I go, there goes $1,200 just for a ticket for a 2-hour show. If you go see these TV shows, Saturday Night Live, you go see the Drew Barrymore show, The View, and you get entertained that way, the cost is zero. In other words, it doesn't cost you anything, and you get live entertainment for an hour or so. Drew Barrymore, actually, they shot 3 at the studios. So one reason I wanted to go is I was going, well, it's free to go to see Saturday Live or Steve Colbert, which I tried to get tickets, but you got to book a month in advance. But if you go see live shows today on Broadway, $600 a ticket, $400 a ticket, 2 people, you're going to spend $800 to $1,200 just to see an evening show. So reason number one, I went, it was economically more sound. Reason number two, I wanted to see what they produced, how they produced it. A couple of things that they did that were different ours. They spend a lot more time scripting their shows. We don't script. They script. In other words, they read from teleprompters. There's somebody that's scripting it. So they're reading from teleprompters all the time. And I'm going like, wow. A lot of ours are unscripted. Now they have certain unscripted segments, but a lot of it's scripted. They do bring in guests all the time. So the producers in the back spend a lot of time doing it. In terms of their studios, and this is where I think Steve Rao keeps saying, oh, we should get a studio here. We got to have a studio. The problem is Steve keeps going to the PBS studios here in Raleigh. And Sasha, they spent buckets of millions of dollars on their studio. I mean, it's better than anything in New York. And I'm going like, wow. In New York, you know what they do? They have a building on 10th and 11th Avenue, if you know where New York is, on like Hell's Kitchen. Seriously. And that's where they drop their studios in. So they're not in really great locations, and they're these old buildings. And once you get inside, it's pretty nice, but it's really not. It's not your first class trip you think it's going to be. And that was both the CBS and ABC studios. So the thing is, there were some differences, and what we want to do is obviously increase our quality of our production so we're competitive. And one thing that also I want to let all the viewers know, because they don't know, you can watch our shows on your television set, your smart TV, go to Roku, type in Pod TV. 4 channels literally will come up. And we've worked diligently to make sure all the 4 channels don't have dead air. So you're continuously going to see the shows over and over again, including like when you do the chess show, we'll show it over and over again on one of the 4 channels. So making more evergreen shows are actually, I think, better for us and better for our network. Other than that, there's not much there. In Toronto, oh, by the way, we're also looking to get a studio here in Raleigh when we need it. So it'll be an ad use. Kim already went to see it. I haven't seen it yet. but she says it's really good. So we're going to look at that. But I say as you need it, because the real problem of studios, you have to go to the studio. And some of our productions, since they're international, there's no way we can get everybody into a studio. So, Mr. Sasha, I don't know what it is in Toronto. Have you been to any of the studios there and seen what other people have done, or not? Or are you still just hanging out in Toronto?
Actually, Toronto has pretty good studios, and they're being used internationally. I know that a lot of U.S. productions they're being done in Toronto. Probably economic considerations. So obviously, everything what you produce in Toronto when you're paying Canadian dollars, and the rent is cheaper, and everything is cheaper than in New York and many other cities. So that economic considerations probably good, and of course trained, well, well experienced staff, because they're doing so many productions, so they're getting more and more experienced. So you have a quality staff for from Toronto studios as well. So that's another attraction. I know that Vancouver has a lot of studios, and of course its proximity to Hollywood makes it an attractive place, good views, climate. So Toronto also has pretty good views. Climate is every year is warmer and warmer, thanks to all this
global warming.
Fight with global warming and so on. For Toronto, global warming is a godsend, because this winter is very mild. It's beautiful. It's, today outside it's like a +5 or 6, which is not a big deal for Florida, for example. But I heard in Florida weather is not great this year for some reason too. I have many friends who are there, and they regret
the number one viewed show right now on Netflix is a show called Suits, and Suits has one of the person, Meghan Markle. Now Meghan actually married the Prince Harry. Okay, so the Suits, which is about lawyers, by the way, if you've seen it, it's on Netflix now, and it used to be on HBO or something like that. Anyway, they moved over to Netflix. They became the number one watch show on Netflix. Suits takes place in New York City, and they'll do all these cutaways in New York City. The entire filming production is in Toronto, by the way, Sasha. Okay, and the reason I knew this is that when I was watching the show, my wife was going, "Where is that?" In other words, they'd show the background. Where is that? And we knew New York pretty well, because I used to work there for 5 years in the city, and even had a house in Greenwich. And and I go there usually a couple times a year, and I'm going, I can't recognize where they're filming this at. So I went back and I looked at the credits to find out where, because you go on the internet and they'll show you where the film locations are. They said, well, none of it's filmed in New York. Suits takes place in New York. All of it's filmed in Toronto. So the number one show in the world on Netflix is filmed entirely in Toronto with cutaways to New York, so you can feel like, well, they're really in New York, but they're not in New York.
Yeah. Nick, I knew about that. I didn't see the subtitles to the show, but I've seen one of the interviews of Meghan Markle, who is playing in Suits.
Yeah.
And at one point, she even had a house in Toronto, because all productions of that series were in Toronto. So I knew that a couple of years ago for sure, in 3 probably.
Yeah, it's all filmed out of Toronto, and now, from what I understand, Suits is going to come back, and they're going to do another season after quite some time. Yeah, Mark.
I'm going to tell you both, because they're part of the reason that takes place. And North Carolina used to be rated either third or fourth, depending on who you were listening to, behind Florida and California. But there's this lovely idea, and then both of you are in the financial space called tax credits. And apparently, North Carolina has not done a good job with their tax credits, so that is part of the reasons that people have left to go to to go to Louisiana, to go to Toronto, to go to a number of other places, because they get some really nice tax credits to film there. And I actually have some friends, Sasha, that are filmmakers in your neck of the woods in Toronto, and they are glad to have some of these American projects come there because they are getting some good benefits and getting some good tax credits in order to make that trip and to make Toronto look like New York or Toronto look like Miami, because some of these shows are definitely taped in order to have that. But I just wanted both of your thoughts around that, because like I said, North Carolina was a premier film state. It still is considered a good film state, but not as good as it used to be. But that's because some of our administrators and some of our government people decided that tax credits weren't a good thing, and that they didn't really need to give the tax credits to the Hollywood types. And therefore the Hollywood types were like, well, if you don't want to give us our breaks, we'll go to Louisiana, or we'll go to some of these other places that want to give us these breaks. So your thoughts, Nick, because like I said, that is part of the reason that our film industry isn't what it used to be.
Yeah, from my understanding, and we don't do films, Mark, it's a very important part of filming. Okay, and here's the way I understand it. Like I said, I don't work in that industry, but see, there are certain states like North Carolina have a state income tax. California has a state income tax. You film there, they'll give you a credit. They give you $100,000 credit, but you don't really need it because you're in Florida that has no income tax. What they do, Mark, is they sell the tax credits to people that need it at a discount. So what they're doing, a lot of the tax credits, it's free money from the government for them. So let's say they gave us 100,000 in tax credits to film in North Carolina. Then we go, well, we can't use it because we're in another state. So we go to the North Carolina citizens and say, look, we'll sell you $100,000 worth of tax credits for 50,000. And they take the 50,000, they put it in their pocket. So it's kind of a way that the people who film get financed for free, so to speak, to put their films together. So let's say Sasha wants to film here in North Carolina. Now they don't do it here, but they do it in certain states like Georgia, let's say. Okay. And then he goes, well, I don't need the credits. I'm in Canada. I don't even pay taxes. But what he does, he sells it at a discount to citizens of Georgia who will be more than happy to buy the tax credits. And tax credits, unlike a deduction, is one-on-one. So if you're going to pay $20,000 to Georgia in terms of income taxes, now you pay zero because you bought $20,000 in tax credits. So for a certain standpoint, here's the problem. If you're a young movie producer and you don't understand the tax credit game, you will lose, because the old sophisticated producer is going to make sure the film is partially financed by tax credits. And that's just the name of the game, because they're basically handing out money in certain states and maybe even provinces like up in Canada. I don't know that game because we don't do movies, but if we did movies, first thing you want to look at is financing through tax credits.
But does it apply to television productions as well, or only movies?
Well, the thing is, I haven't really looked into it whether it does on television productions or not, Sasha. But it's an absolutely good question, because the thing is, I haven't, like I said, honestly, I haven't looked into it. I do know that the movie industry is driven by tax credits, which is one reason they're filmed at certain places, and they're not filmed in Hollywood anymore. A lot of them are not. And then some of them are because one group said, well, that's where we get all our talent. So there's a TV show called CSI Miami, and they make you believe it's being filmed in Miami. They show all the backgrounds of Miami, et cetera. Problem is, it's all filmed in California because the talent doesn't want to leave California. So they film it in California. And the only time you know it's not Miami is when you look at the beaches and there are mountains behind the beaches. So I used to live in Miami. I can promise you there's no mountains in Miami. So when you look at beaches, you see mountains behind it in CSI Miami. So what they try to do is blur out the mountains, literally, because they're doing a beach film or a show, and they have mountains in the background, and they can't show the mountains. So That's that's CSI Miami. But every one of these, see, and Sasha, this is where I think a lot of the people, because I meet a lot of people in the entertainment industry, they fail the financial aspects of it. It's trickier than you think. In other words, how do you monetize and what do you do? Well, here's a gentleman who actually lives in California. Probably give us some insight on this area, Rick Rosner. Rick, we were just talking about filming locations and tax credits. There's a TV show called Suits, which right now #1 in the world in terms of being watched. It was transported over from like Cinemax or HBO over to Netflix. Now, the interesting thing about Suits, because my wife and I go to New York a couple times a year, and my wife said, "Well, where is this being filmed at? The background doesn't look familiar," so I had to look it up. None of it's filmed in New York. It's
like
all
Vancouver or something, probably.
It's filmed in Toronto, where
Oh.
Sasha lives. Okay, and so the thing is, I'm going, wow, this is really weird. What they do is they do all the cutaways in New York. So they go on Suits. Oh yeah, it's in New York, but not one of the office scenes, one of the outside scenes. Because every time they go outside, I go, this doesn't look like New York. So what city is it? It's Toronto. Another famous TV show is called CSI Miami. Okay, so I used to live in Miami, right? And they show beach scenes, and there's mountains in the back. And when I lived in Miami, there's no mountains in the back of any of the beaches in Miami. So I had to look it up. CSI Miami is filmed entirely in California, Southern California. It's not filmed.
The city I was born in, Albuquerque, which I consider a fairly miserable city, has been vitalized by Breaking Bad and then Better Call Saul. And they offer really good, it's a cheap state to work in, and they offer all sorts of tax credits and breaks, and it's been great for Albuquerque.
Yeah, well, it's the tax credits and the sale of the tax credits. Because when we looked and I had somebody who was working in we actually did a pension plan for a fairly decent sized movie production company. And they essentially have retired, so I can't talk to them anymore. But the thing is, he was saying that most people fail in movies because they don't understand the financial aspects. He says, one thing you do is you finance your movies through tax credits, and you sell the tax credits to the citizens because you don't need them. So for example, you want to film in Georgia and they give you $100,000 in tax credits, then you sell it to the citizens of Georgia, maybe 50 cents on the dollar. And you just got pocketed $50,000 for doing nothing except filming in Georgia. And then you use the $50,000 to finance your movie. I've talked to a lot of movie producers. They don't understand that that's how you finance your movie production, okay, is tax credits from states that offer them to entice you to go film in their particular state. Or
not
perhaps
North Carolina. North Carolina North Carolina.
No, North Carolina doesn't play that game. Okay, but
not a
states
friendly
do.
state.
Georgia plays. Yeah, Georgia plays the game. We know they're doing something in British Columbia to attract movie production. But the reason I want to talk about The View is I actually did some corporate espionage. Now, I've never been to any studios in Southern California. I wanted to go to the studios to see The View. The View, for the viewers who haven't seen that before on our network, it's a very famous television show on ABC. Okay, so I go to the ABC studios. Now, if you're in North Carolina, and Steve Rao is so spoiled, he goes to the PBS studios, no dollars left unspent, Class A building, marble floors, super nice studios, brand spanking new, and that's the PBS studios in the Research Triangle Park in Raleigh. You think you just walked into the Hearst Mansion. Okay, now that's PBS Raleigh. You go to the ABC studios in New York. Okay, I'm trying to remember. This was on 66th Street, Upper Northwest, way out in an old building, not dilapidated, but basically a refurnished building. So you go in and poof, there's a view. They had somebody that did a pre-show that made you feel really good. And she was actually good. Honestly, she's good or better than any of the talent that was on The View. But here was her problem. She was heavy. She was overweight. Okay. And TV don't like overweight people. Okay. So I'm serious. I'm going, this lady is
It's
This
changing
lady,
a little bit.
by the way,
It's
I have her
changing.
business card. I have her business card, and I'm doing talent evaluation. She did the pre-show, the warm-up, they call it, for all the people that were there. She was unbelievably great talent. And I'm going like, she's better than Joy Behar. She's better than Whoopi Goldberg. She's better than all the other stooges that are up there. Why isn't she up there? And you know why? I was going, man, she's just heavy set, And I'm going like, it's one of the prejudices on television. Okay, if you're overweight, we don't want you. And so the thing is, unless you're Melissa McCarthy, somehow she got on. But and so she just does the warm up for The View. So the warm up was really good. Here's what I did find out. They actually read off teleprompters, Rick. Most all of our talent they ad lib everywhere. They read off teleprompters all the time, and they are coached all the time. This is the topic we're going to discuss. This is the next topic. This is the next topic. The producers move them around like pawns on a chessboard. All right, where ours are fairly ad lib everywhere, and they ad lib only a little bit on The View. You'd think they ad lib a lot, but they really don't. They're reading off teleprompters. Only a 3-camera shoot, which is very important for us because you think, oh, but a lot of them are what they call these gimbals, so they move around like that. That's been a big improvement in television. And then the key thing, and this is something I'm telling Kim, we got to talk to our producers about. They just don't get it. Topics are extremely important. Now, my ad agency in New York told me that a long time ago. Your topic is the most important thing. It's not you. You think it's you. Okay, we were putting in 40 to 100,000 a week in ads in the New York Times. Seriously, when I was doing events in New York back in the 90s. And so we had an advertising agency we hired to tell us how to do all that. He goes, guys, it's not about you. It's about the topic. They will come to your event based on the topic. Everything is topical, and so you're either going to, we're paying this guy big bucks. So we press the topic, and then ourselves, the talent, we pushed in the background. And he was right. And then we'd fill the rooms, with hundreds and hundreds of people, and literally thousands of people would go to these events because we pushed the topic.
That's why they need teleprompters, because you have these 5 women, they're on every day. Yes. And, when CNN wants to talk about a topic, they can bring in specialists for 5 minutes at a time. But these women have to be well-versed in every single topic, and they're talking for a full hour. So yeah, they're going to need help. And
they're not. Well, I told Kim, we've got to talk to our producers and realize topic and guest are the 2 most important things. You are the least important thing. You just don't know it. Yeah, Sasha.
Well, in all 3 shows that I'm producing, it's chess, Ukrainian, and modern investment. Of course, the topic is number 1, and I'm trying to stay at the topic most of the time, and I think I'm okay with that. Now, on the script part of it, it's very difficult to, if probably impossible, to make any script because all these shows are in real time, in real situation in the world, whether it's a chess, whether it's a Ukrainian show, or modern investment. Each show is different based on what's happening today about this topic. And maybe if what I could improve is probably have more guests and to change them from time to time, that could do, but there are not a wide choice of people who, on one hand, they have to be obviously some authorities on chess. Okay, with chess, I have a few people who are doing a very good job. On Ukrainian shows, for example, Dr. Lockwood is extremely valuable, knowledgeable, and in my opinion, unique person for this show. There are a couple of others there, but he's a regular. He's doing a fantastic job. And Ivan from Kyiv, Ukraine, unfortunately, he's not coming every time, but at least once a week he's available, and he's bringing some new videos, and they're playing well, and I think people like that. And on investment show, again, it's every time is a different situation on the market, and therefore different. We are not doing recommendations what I'm doing is I just show people my real positions in real time. What I've, for example, liquidated one position, I took interest in another position, and how is it doing? And if I made any flops, I'm ready. I'm first one to talk about it. And most of the times, my strategy is right, and it's yielding incredible profits for last 12 months. And I didn't make any deposits and any withdrawals. I just kept the same amount all 12 months, and result is 188% net profit, which beats 99% of all funds, mutual funds, hedge funds, and just anything. And I'm trying to explore what I'm doing and how to do it, but that's where I'm failing, because even my partners on the show, I don't think that they fully appreciate my strategies and what I'm doing. And
But see, the thing is, I agree with you. I don't think that they will be able to ever appreciate that. But when I say topic, since we can put little ads, you could say how I made 188% last year in investing, and that could be a topic. You follow me?
Yeah.
You've got to be real specific with people and topical, or how to guard yourself against losses in 2024 using these 3 simple strategies. Things like that make a difference in terms of getting viewers. On the chess show, I saw you and Ken Reagan. Game of the week is really, really good. If you say, okay, the game of the week from Wink on Z, or the game of the week from whatever place. But if we have like 1 sentence topic, then we can keep pressing it on the network, because people buy the topic. In other words, whatever topic it may be. For Ukraine, well, you have a great topic coming out right now. The $60 billion bill from Ukraine from the United States to Ukraine, is it good? You just put a question like that, and you just hammer that topic during.
You're right. In my show, it's very easy to have a topic every week.
Right.
Because and you can do this only thing, you cannot do topics, let's say, 3 days before the show. Ideal is a day, maximum 2 days before the show.
Oh yeah,
you know exactly what's happening.
Sasha, the thing I learned with the people in New York and the Drew Barrymore show and The View, the prep time that they put on the shows is astronomical. We don't have to put in that much, but a lot of our shows put in 0. We got to put in some prep time and hit the topics. In other words, and a topic with a hook. How I made 188% in the stock market last year is a hook for everybody to watch your bloody show.
I used the topic strategy to get on garbage TV a few times a long time ago, because producers are desperate for new topics, because they've been racking they have to come up with topics every day, every week. And so so if you email them and say, well, I've got a topic for you and a guest who can discuss that topic, you can get on some of these shows.
Right. And also I'm going to keep pressing on our network this year that we have 4 channels on Roku. Now, all you have to do is type in Pod TV once. 4 channels appear on Roku on your smart television.
And Amazon.
And Amazon, but I don't even watch Amazon. But
I know you don't.
I do watch your shows on television, on Roku. Okay. And we have to keep telling the viewers, because most of the people, when we pull I've been pulling the demographics every month. Every month, there'll be 55,000 to 100,000 people watching on their mobile phones our shows. You got to be kidding me. Mobile phones, number 1. Number 2, they'll watch 23,000 to 50,000 will watch on their desktop. Are you kidding me? They're watching on the desktop? And then 800 to 1,000 people are watching this on Roku on TV. But the reason I'm pushing it is Roku is more stable than those 2 distribution sources. Once they type in Roku on their smart TV, it appears right along with Netflix. Pod TV is right next to Netflix. Pod TV is right next to Amazon. It's permanently embedded, so you can't forget Pod TV. So if I go to my TV right now, I can watch this show. I just go type in, I just go there, look at the icon. There's Pod TV. I press it, and we're on. But a
Yeah.
lot of our producers haven't told their audience that we are on television all the time. We have 4 channels on television. So it's kind of a
I have one of actually my main television set in the living room is a Roku TV. It's a smart
Okay.
TV, and
yeah. Go to the search engine and type in Pod TV.
yes, it's very easy. The only problem is that the shows, the dates, the names of the shows, and so on. This is a little bit. I don't know. It's not being modified, or it's not being.
We are working on it. We have another engineer who's working to keep down dead space, and B, do the shows over and over again. In other words, like let's say you do your modern investing show or the chess show, that it appears in one of the 4 channels all the time. In other words, it keeps rotating in and out all the time. So once you do it, the more evergreen. See, the chess show is very evergreen. People watch it all the time.
Yeah.
That it appears multiple times throughout the week and multiple times throughout the year, that we can use your shows. In other words, we don't just do it once. We're going to show them over and over again. Same with the Ukraine show, although it's more timely. Modern
Naked
investors,
Night, all of those shows are going to get more and more exposure.
They're going to get more and more exposure.
We're able to divide up the shows a little more by their category because we have 4 channels now. So it makes it easier for people to find your type of show. And we're also rerunning them on the live sector, which is at the top of the page, except for right now because we're promoting the Super Bowl projects that we're doing, because it came on us at the last minute. So at the top of the page, we have some of our Super Bowl projects. But after that is all of our live, what's recorded live. And then during that day, when we don't have a live recording going on, we rerun your shows. We stack and rerun your shows so that people, again, it's getting more exposure. As we're growing, each of your shows will get more branding, and we're going to be adding a video on demand for some of the shows that are more evergreen because, people aren't going to always go back to an investment show because that was more current, but they will go back to a chess show or a Naked at Night or, things like that. They'll come to just to watch and enjoy or learn. So, and then we've got our social media site. I don't think we'll compete with Facebook, but it's nice, neat, and clean. And I programmed it so that if you do post on Facebook or Instagram, that it will go to our social media site. So you only have to post something one time. Mark loves it. Because he usually posts on Instagram all the time. So whenever he posts there, it posts to our social media site. The betas.
You want to put up the link so people can get to it?
Yeah. So I kind of want to keep it more, we just passed the beta. The feed is very feature low, but it's user friendly, clean. We don't have a bunch of ads on it. We're vetting the people as they come on board. And then when you get vetted, you get a code. And when you invite someone, you can give them the code. And then we know that they are your friend. And so that's how we're vetting this. Our goal isn't to be as big as Facebook, but to provide people an alternative that isn't, I can't stand Facebook anymore. It makes me nervous. And they're always putting me in jail or demonetizing me because they're supposed to pay me per views. And I use their tools. When because you have to, and they give you the music to use. And every time I do, they come back and go, "Oh, you can't use that music. It's copyright. So we're not going to allow you to monetize." But they just made, 1 million hits off of mine with that music. And then they made money on it, but they're not going to pay me. But it's a game they're playing. And I think it's wrong. If I get some time and energy, and I'll go sue them for cheating people like that because
there's a term for it. Cory Doctorow, I bring him up a lot. He's an analyst of tech and future tech. He calls it enshittification. that when that it's a natural cycle to make the Googles, the Amazons, the FANG companies, their products get crappier over time because they start out great to capture the public and to capture vendors. And then to get their money out of those people, they have to squeeze them by making the services more exploitative.
Right.
I have a question. Could you tell me if I'm going with a topic, let's say tomorrow is Ukrainian show. Okay, my topic would be, for example, the first one I was thinking about what's happening to General Zaluzhny, for example. So then where do I put it and how you can promote this particular topic?
So you should put it when someone creates the show for you, because I don't know if you're creating your own, but when you create the show in the StreamYard, it can be put in the title. And then if you send it that it's got more detail to it, like a guest, when it's finished, just send the information to Mark. I think Mark runs your show.
Mark runs my show.
Right. Yeah. Just send it. So all he has to do is copy paste it. And when the show is embedded, like it has to do an embedded coding after you film it, he can put that on there for reruns. So people, but if you send it to him before the show, he can put it in the pre-advertising, because when we build the show and send it out, it has a timer on it that goes to Facebook and YouTube and says, this show's going to start today at 10, and on it will be the title and then the definition, whatever, if you have guests or something. But that part has to be done when your show is being created, like the creation of it before you go into film. And Mark can do it. But if you get there and you go, Mark, I forgot to send you this, copy paste and put it in the private chat. And so all he has to do is copy paste it. Because if it's a lot of work if we're having to do this for every show, but if everyone just sends them the information so he can copy paste it, it can happen fast.
No, actually, all my shows are require very little advanced preparation, because the name of the show is there, the time, day of the show, everything is there. So it's just a topic. So the topic I can put right before the show or even during the show in private chat or something like this. Right. But if you want to use the topic as to see if more people would come to see just because of that particular topic, then it has to be done before the show beginning.
I believe that we have you guys programmed to have your own folders because you both have, consistent shows. And as we put them in those folders, we can start promoting those shows a little bit more. Again, if you have it typed up and then just send it to Mark, so all he has to do is copy paste it, it makes his life a whole lot easier, because he runs about 25 shows a week. Yes. And so just make, and for people out there in the world listening, this is a lot to realize. We do a lot in the background. It isn't just, we appear. There's a lot that goes on in the background to do any show. And Nick and I, we used to do stage settings, and Rick has done this. And, to do all of that prep work, making sure everything looks good. Your suit's got to be perfect. You got to make sure your shirts are pulled down. Like Nick said, you can't be overweight. How you sit in a chair, everything is so detailed. And no, people just don't walk in and sit down in a chair and start talking unless they're just well rehearsed and it's the standard everyday same thing, like Jimmy Fallon and a couple of those guys. They're there all the time.
All the guys that Rick Rosner worked for.
Yeah.
My bosses who are good at just sitting down and talking used to make fun of me for how bad I am at just being able to talk off the top of my head.
Oh,
because those guys came from 20 years of radio. Radio hates dead air because it makes you sound dumb. And these guys, A, are geniuses, Adam and Jimmy, and B, have this training in being able to think while talking and come up with the next thought. And seamlessly.
Speaking about overweight women, do you remember movie Casino when they brought the dancers from Paris and Robert De Niro? He started to weight all these dancers, and most of them sent back to Paris because he felt that they're overweight.
Yeah, I mean, it's really hard on women more than men. Men got that big square jacket that they it's not tapered, but our jackets, they're not only tapered, they make them a little bit tighter. I hate saying this, but so that your figure shows more fuller. So they will make your clothes tighter on women, and sometimes you're scared to eat because or have a drink because it's anything will bloat you. But I wanted to share with you guys, this is our social media site. I'm real proud of what we did. This is just my page on there, just to show you a little bit about it. If you see the green dot, just like Facebook, that means you're there, you're alive. You can look down at your personal information. It's easy to register, and we don't resell your data. We're not about collecting your data to resell. Anything that seems like a lot to you, we're vetting who's coming in the door, because we just don't want anyone here like they do on the other social media sites. We have a news feed, and so again, I'm kind of like Mark. I like to post one time. So I post on Facebook, which also goes to my Instagram. And then if you contact me and say, Kim, I want to be able to do that too, so that it posts into our news feed here, then I can set you up to do that. So we're still kind of testing, but I'm ready for people to use it. It's exciting because it is very clean, very user friendly. We have, a video section where you can upload videos and play them back. Again, just testing. We have forums. I need to get something up, a picture up for Sasha, but, and then one for Naked at Night. But these are for you guys. When you get registered in, I will make you the owner of that group, and then you can update it and talk to your fans directly when they start joining Pod TV Chatter, and it become a forum. So again, this is just our social media website, but it's so your fans can join and feel a little bit safer than what you are on Facebook and Instagram. And again, we're not there to truly, we're not there to steal your data and resell it like they do. We also have a store, check it out. And it's on, easy to access from there as well. So we have apparel, accessory, drinkwares, the basic stuff. But it's, we wanted to make sure that we're offering something user friendly to people, but so that they can communicate with each other. And here you can see the members. We don't have a lot of members. I think this is somebody testing right now. So we're still doing some testing, but as we're being vetted out, each of your heads will hopefully be up here. So again, we've done that. And we've also got a nice, clean, a little bit more user-friendly website so that people can find your shows. We're making it a lot more easier and user-friendly access. And this is all because we have a really good engineer helping us do all of this now. So,
very important thing, I've checked your book site, and most of the books are not available in Canada. So I can purchase only 4 or 5 books. That's it.
I think we can adjust that. That's an Amazon adjustment. Well,
I know because Amazon is available, obviously, in Canada. But in your case, it's just 4 or 5 books only.
So sometimes all we have to do is go click that we want to be in a certain country. We just have to register for it. We were told that we're not listed in Australia either. And it's just a learn and grow situation with Amazon. They're not user friendly. They have no customer support for us. So we are building and growing with them. again, this is just so that we can also offer the books of the people who've been on our show, or books from people who are producers in our network, so that we can just help promote them. It's not about getting every book Amazon owns out there, but we just
have
want,
about
we
200.
don't make a lot of money, but anytime I mention the bookstore, we do have to mention that we do earn a little bit of money. It's about 50
We
cents.
get a small commission from Amazon.
It's about 50 cents. So,
yeah, but
it's
yeah,
more
well,
about just being, helping people promote their books. So.
Yeah, but also, just to get back on topic with getting on topic, Sasha, if you create a show, let's say the history of Ukraine up to the war, I can run that show over and over again. In other words, if you create a show, Stock Market Investing 101, I can run that show over and over again. The minute you go to daily topics, in other words, topics that are not evergreen, then the show has very limited use. In other words, if I'm going to talk about Ukraine today, well, in other words, the war, what's the thing going on today? Even though it's more topical for the viewers, it's really bad to rerun it over and over again. Same with investing. If you do a special, maybe once a month, do a special on investing in stocks versus bonds, something so simple as that. Then I can take that show and I can run it all year long, literally, or the history of Ukraine. Okay. And you have, what's his name Ivan put in all the little things, the history of the war in Ukraine, history of the war in Ukraine. I could run that over and over again. But the real problem with current events is that it's dead after you run the show. In other words, I can't run it over and over again because it's too topical. So like today we did a special on financial education. We talked nothing about current events because I'm going to use that show over and over again for the rest of the year. I got a lot more.
To actually do a show of origins of a conflict between Russia and Ukraine. And I wanted to go all the way to like 1,000 years ago and where the conflict is really lying and how it developed. And there was always conflict during this 1,000 years. It was never that
the history of the conflict between Russia and Ukraine. You do that, I can run that show for a year. Seriously. In other words, it'll be running on all 4 different channels throughout a year. And it's literally got tens of thousands plus of views because it's evergreen.
The only problem is that this show cannot be 100% objective history.
That's okay. I don't care about that.
It cannot.
It's media. I don't care about objectivity.
Yeah, it could be my view.
I care about longevity. How long can I get to use the show?
The
longer you run it, the more views you get.
Okay, it will be a history of Russia-Ukrainian conflict.
Yeah, and you title it the history
to
Russia and Ukraine. Yeah, you title it the history of Russia-Ukraine. Then our engineers in the back go, "Oh, that's the history of Russia and Ukraine. I can run that all year long," and then they'll run it every week for the next 52 weeks.
Let me pitch you something, Nick. For $100 extra in production costs, we can make Naked at Night truly Naked at Night. We can, for $100, we can book a beautiful model, and Lance can draw her, and we won't shoot, the naked parts of her, but we'll shoot around that. But we will, for $100, that's what it costs to have a model.
A month? Is that it?
For a set of 4 shows. We book them. We do 4 shows in an evening. We tape 4 half-hour shows roughly, and to book somebody to do all 4 shows would be about $100.
Really? That'd be great. Can you make the show evergreen so I can use it over and over again?
And be less topical?
In other words, less on current events and more. It's a topic that can be used over and over again. In other words, it's not current. Well, I mean, you could take any topic.
What we could do, we do 4 shows in a taping, and we could make 2 of the shows topical and 2 of the shows evergreen.
Okay, good. Yeah, right. And that we could use. We could use see what we'd do is the 2 topical ones would be on and off in probably about a week, and the 2 evergreens would be shown all year long.
Yeah, I'll work it. We're doing shows on Tuesday if the rain lets us,
Okay.
and we'll try that format.
Okay, yeah, let's do that, because the thing is, when I was looking at right now, we're running a lot of Brandon Stewart's shows, and I've been watching them on Pod TV on my television set, which you got to tell everybody, go to your smart TV, type in Pod TV, poof, four channels will come up. And his is all evergreen. I'm going, wow, he did one on Columbia. He did one that always hits the top of our rating boards is Escape to Canada. And I've been running that show for years, and it always gets tens of thousands of views because it's a travel topical, but not a current event show. So if you have a show that's not current event, it's topical, and I'm not sure what topical you're going to do when you're painting a naked lady. You'll have to think about that. In other words, art in the 21st century. I don't know what you're going to call it. In other words, it could be modern art in the 21st century, and I'm going to bring this gorgeous lady in, and we're going to look at modern art in the 21st century. Who knows what you're going to talk about, but you got to make it where it's evergreen so we can use the show over and over again. And it has an unbelievable value, at least for us, because I got to fill 4 channels. And right now we have one on world politics, but we produce a lot on politics, so that we rotate. One channel is politics, the other is sports and entertainment. And the sports show, we actually get a lot of sports content, but it's off-wall sports content. It's like racing and Saudi Arabia. I mean, some really.
So should we try to book a model for Tuesday, and I'll invoice you for $100 or something?
Let's do it. Tuesday's tomorrow, right?
Yeah. We'll do the evergreen format tomorrow. We'll try that, and then for the next one, we'll try booking a model.
Okay, why don't we do that? Yeah, not this week, but next week we'll do that.
Okay.
Model, and you can just invoice me on that. But I think that would be good, because this gives you setup time to make sure that you set it up properly. And also, here's the thing I found out on Drew Barrymore. She's live at 11 o'clock. No, she's not. She's in front of a live audience at 11 o'clock. Mm-hmm. All her shows are taped well in advance. So we were on today. This is the 5th. The next one's the 26th and 27th. She tapes 3 or 4 shows every 2 days in front of a live audience, but it's not live. All of it's taped. So with the model, if you do non-current topics, you could actually have her there for the day, cut out 4 shows, and you have your 4 non-evergreen. You have your 4 evergreen shows for the year, literally, because I'll run that show over and over again throughout the year. Again, as long as it's not current events. And this is where you and Lance could spend some time thinking about what would be a great topic. And I just threw something out: modern art in the 21st century, and here we have this beautiful, gorgeous model. Whatever, and you could put something like that in the title.
But we could also do a whole show on a half hour on you said Escape to Canada does big. Like my wife and I have been researching, trying to move out of America to be closer to our kid. We could talk about that whole process.
Yeah, Brandon did a show a long time ago called Escape to Canada. And we've been running it throughout the year, and it always appears like in the top 5. It's almost like I can't seem to get it out of the top 5. But now he always hits. Then I've seen some of his other shows. He has one on Columbia, has one on Newport Beach. He's got a lot of good content. You run it over and over again because it's all evergreen content. It's all travel content.
We could talk about the golden visa, where if you bring various countries like Costa Rica, you bring them money for investment, they'll let you move there.
That's correct. Right. Yeah. See, again, that would be a topical show, how to leave the United States and still maintain your residency here, live abroad half the cost of living in the United States.
My brother does that. My brother lives half the time in France and half the time in the United States. And I think he's got citizenship now there, but his concerns were different than most of the other people in the United States from wanting to leave. But he loved both countries anyway, and but I think that would be a good show to have. What does it take to become a dual citizenship, or you want to retire? Because I looked at retiring in New Zealand, because a long time ago, if you moved there by the age of 50 or before you were 50, and you were kind of living there a little bit, and paying in, when you decided to retire there, like after 50, you didn't have to pay a lot of the taxes we pay here, and you were eligible for the benefits. So New Zealand was big on my list. Now Colombia, South America, is really big on my list. I just like the way they treat people there. Their medical care is really nice. I don't care what anyone says. Their medical care is super nice. Actually, they have the best plastic surgeons in the world. And
yeah, look at their beauty pageant contestants.
That should be a criteria, that you don't have plastic surgery to be in the pageant. But but the idea is to find a place that provides good medical care, good retirement benefits, like maybe they don't charge you property taxes if you've been living there for a while. Some countries don't do that. I had learned one time that in Puerto Rico, if you had lived there for a long time and owned your house and then you retired, your taxes were fairly reduced, if not zero. So there are just many different places you can go that when you retire, unlike America, when you retire, you're treated with a lot more respect and have less debt on your back, because they're not taxing you and, costing you a lot of money medically. In America, it's reverse. As you retire, they tax your property more. They, beat down on you. Your medical care is way up here. Insurance is way up here. I mean, U.S. is not the place to retire. I'm not trying to scare people. It is
my wife's looking at a show on that would be very popular. My wife looks at a website, I think, that's called something like Cheap Houses International, where, Italy is a great country to live in, and you can buy. There are all these little villages that are desperate to have people come in and
and one of our hosts actually did a show on that. He's actually on temporarily hiatus, but he'll be back shortly. But Billy Graham, not the famous pastor, but our Billy Graham, actually lived in, I believe it was Bali, and I believe he lived in a couple of other places as well. He's now back in Texas, in Kimberly's neck of the woods and everything, but he has definitely lived in some of those places, and definitely there were even some of the countries in the continent of Africa that were encouraging people to come there and were giving them breaks to come there as well. So definitely that has been a conversation. There was a whole group of expatriates that were moving to different countries during the height of the pandemic, and definitely there were a number of people that like that lifestyle, like you were talking about, Kim, and have either decided to stay there or are looking to go back there if they have come back to the States. Because I know Billy has been talking about going back at some point, but he moved his entire family overseas, and now they're back in Texas. But I do know that he's got some desires to go back to a couple of those countries that he visited, because some of them were Asian, and I do think that there were some that were African and some other countries as well that he was visiting on those various continents and everything.
Yeah, and I saw one thing our producers have said is we got to keep it like at an hour and a half an hour, and we're at the hour, so we have to go, because he cuts it right at the right time. So with that, we'll see you all next week on the media show on the Pod TV network. For those who are on desktop and also on your mobile phones, go to your smart television set and type in under Roku's search engine Pod TV, and we'll see you there. Bye-bye.
Oh, you don't need Roku.